Yeah, so the world is pretty cray-cray right now. It really is. And I know that so many of you who, like me, are on a spiritual path, walking this journey of enlightenment and self-betterment and trying to be as awake as you can be. We are really feeling the impact that's happening on the planet right now. And media, it's just taken over. We're bombarded with what's going on. But there seems to be very little media coming out on the other side of things as to, like, why is this transpiring? What are the spiritual implications of what's going on? Ancient civilizations warned us a long time ago that there was going to be a shift, a change in humanity. The human DNA has evolved 100 times faster in the last 3,000 years than it has at any other time throughout us being Homo sapiens. We are genetically more different from the same Homo sapien 5,000 years ago than that Homo sapien was to the Neanderthal. Something more profound is happening. So, in the grand scheme of things, with the way that things are transpiring, it really is in alignment with this world shifting to a higher state of consciousness, as above, so below. And working with fractals is the sister to chaos. These studies on random tap dripping, the static of radios, the static of TV, and it seemed very chaotic, But when they recorded it over a long period of time, they found that there was actually a divine order in this apparent chaos, right? Using that kind of chaos theory, it's a good way for us to begin to shift our perception of what is going on in the world. The other thing about as above, so below, like whatever happens on a higher scale is happening on a smaller scale and a smaller scale and a smaller scale. And just in our own personal journey of spiritually awakening and developing, a lot of the time it is events happening in our lives that push us onto a spiritual path. Like, what the just happened? Like, what is going on? Is there something more to this universe? Is there something more to me? And it pulls us, brings us in on this spiritual journey. Being on this path, it's more than just, oh, I believe in angels. The spiritual journey is about this deep awakening of the fact that you are a soul. You are this divine energy, piece and part of the whole of the universe. You are a piece of God incarnated into this skin suit, playing the role of a human, right? And in this awakening, a part of this process is, as we awaken, we start to become much more conscious of our mind, our thoughts, our emotions. What are we doing with them? Where are we stuffing them? How, where are we processing them and where are we not? So there's always, at some point in everyone's journey, there is this stopping to make an assessment of our shadow side. Because in order for us to really clean up in here, we need to stop and look at what it is we're trying to avoid. And it's through that process of becoming as aware as you can, as possible, of these smaller things that are running us through the ego, that we're stuffing away and holding these emotional traumas and stuff. We're bringing that, we're pulling that into conscious awareness. And, symbolically, we are bringing it into the light. And it is only until we become aware of something within us that we are able to look at it, address it, and do something with it. And this is exactly what's happening on a global scale. Now the world, what had, 15 years ago had been considered conspiracy theory, is like real life. And it's happening through this shift and awakening. The shadow side of things are rising up. This is the impetus to change, because unfortunately, human beings, if everything is good and happy and we're like, ooh, no need to change. This is all good. I think I'll stay the same. But when we experience pain, pain is the impetus to change. And so these kind of factors are what's playing out right now in the world. It's now all coming to the surface. The dark side of things are rising up, but it's through that process that now people who don't believe in conspiracy, who, aren't on a spiritual path, everybody is waking up going, what the? We need to do something. This isn't right. Like everyone knows instinctively that things are not right now. It's important for this part to play out. It needs to play out. Our role, job, part, it's going to be very important that we do not get sucked into that stuff. It's important that we come into alignment into ourselves. Before 9/11, there were, it was Princeton University, had these like seismographic kind of little units all over the world. And they actually were measuring human consciousness. And yes, this is a very renowned US university. And they found that 10 minutes before 9/11 occurred, before the first plane hit the building, that there was a massive like seismographic reaction, which they related to the consciousness, global consciousness. And the same thing happened right before the tsunami in 2004. As a global consciousness, I can only imagine what that seismograph looks like right now, right? Because everyone is feeling this and everyone is affected. Depression rates in the US as of September 2020 had almost tripled. That's just in the US, and that was 5 months ago. And now there are even more. The numbers are higher. It's growing exponentially, the number of people who are experiencing a sense of hopelessness. And unfortunately, it's our young people who are being affected even more so than ever before because of what is happening in the world. The reality of things is that on a macro scale, there isn't anything that any single one of us individually can do. That's just a fact. However, on the micro scale, there is a lot that we can do, that we are actually spiritually being tasked with to do to effect change. So we can't change the global situation, but we can change our situation for ourselves. We can begin to do the things that we need to do for us to fulfill our role here on the planet. And what do you mean by that, Cheryl? Well, there is a reason why your soul chose to be incarnated at this time. The divine wisdom of the soul. And you, just by the fact that you are here watching this video, it says that you have a very significant and important role to play in this. Even if Your mind is telling you that you don't matter, it doesn't matter, and, even if your mind is saying you need to exit the planet now because I can't take it anymore, I want you to just breathe, take a breath, and come back into the moment with me. Just come settle down on the hippie couch with me, okay? So, I know how desperate things look, but our job, being these souls who are awakened, we are like the sentinels in a way, and we have jobs to do. You have a job to do. Our job is very similar to, I liken it to the plants that are in pond water, or these plants that can actually filter sewage water. They have a whole slew of these different plants, and by the end of it, when the water flows through all these different tanks, they have clean, pure water. And our role as these spiritually awakening beings, our role is somewhat like those plants. So I don't mean you have to just filter all day, but our job is to help the world in processing what's happening. So how does that even begin? Well, first and foremost, we have to take care of ourselves. It's very important that you take care of yourself. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And I know that it's almost cliche now and overused, but there is a very powerful base truth in what he was conveying to us. And this is where we cannot make a change individually on the macro, but we definitely can on the micro. And it does begin at home with us. Most importantly, especially if you're very empathic, very sensitive, and very feeling. I know for me personally, it's been a lot to process what's been happening and unfolding over the year. But when I heard about the over 10,300 farmers in India who have committed suicide because of the politics of what's happening. Sorry. It really hurt my heart, and it still hurts, because it's sad to see these sort of things happening in our world. But I know that I am here not just as a innocent bystander. I'm not here just to be some witness to this horrificness, that I am here to make my contribution in my way, and you are here to make your contribution in your way. And the first way that we can begin to make our contribution is through giving ourselves space and disengaging from the tremendous media feed that is coming in right now with all of these different issues that are happening within the States and around the world. I really strongly want to encourage you, if you can find the way to begin to pull back from some of the bigger social media feeds, give yourself some space. This filter is going to get overrun if you don't have any downtime. So making some space away from social media is really, really vital. And you will actually start to feel more of a sense of balance coming back to yourself. There's a whole lot that I have to say about that arena. And I'm going to save that for another video. However, I just want you to strongly consider that, because you are deeply being manipulated and hand-fed a particular agenda there. And part of that agenda is to keep you asleep down, repressed, okay? And that is not conducive to you awakening to your higher truth and spiritual self. I'm going to strongly encourage you to start cutting out the news. And it's a very amazing thing, you know. You don't actually have to read the news in your feeds. You don't need to watch TV. Anything that's very important will actually find its way to you. Like when it's so important that people are talking about it, you'll find out about it. And that again is just to start creating this space and this buffer so that we can begin to get our energies realigned in here with this here, right? With spirit. And we need to kind of restore that balance into a place of positivity within ourselves. However, I'm not talking about, oh, the world is great and the world is love and I'm love and everything's good. Meanwhile, there's nuclear bombs going off in the background. By positivity, I mean, we can't look at our garden, this earth garden, and say there are no weeds, there's only these beautiful plants, because what's going to happen is if we ignore those weeds, they are going to take over. However, if we are hell-bent on hating those weeds and wanting to burn those weeds and pull those weeds and get rid of those weeds, I hate these weeds, then we, in our short-sightedness and our very strict focus, we are literally feeding all our energy into these weeds. And what ends up happening is, in our negative take on these weeds, we're actually sending that out to the entire garden. And so all these amazing, nourishing, loving plants that we have get neglected. And they are bombarded with all this negative energy and focus, and they begin to wither and die. Or they just get pulled out with the weeds because we didn't even notice them because we were so focused on the weeds. It's really important that when things come across into your world, whether it's through your phone, the TV, through the mouths of others, that it's going to be really important that you not let it pull you mentally, emotionally, or energetically into a negative state or to have a negative reaction to it, right? Because that is literally feeding it. We're feeding it when we hear it and react. And that inner reaction that we have actually falls into manifesting principles. And I mean manifesting more in like the quantum energetic laws that rule us, right? So this is where we need to really focus on integrating some of these other spiritual principles to kind of help us to not do that, because this is a habit. You know, the mind, the ego, the false self really loves to wallow in the crap, and it loves to hear crap so it can, you know, go, oh my God, the crap, and it takes us down. And so this is where things like presence, learning how to catch yourself in that reaction and then bring yourself back to center. So it's not that we're going to pretend, it's about coming into an acceptance of this moment, not on the grand scale, not what might happen because of the news that you just heard and what it might imply, and not going down that rabbit trail with that, but coming back into the moment, into the now, and into the present. Because it is this moment where you are empowered. It really is. It will do a tremendous amount of change in your energy field when you are sitting in a place of presence and not lost in thoughts. Because where this fits in with manifesting is that what you focus on, what you mentally and emotionally feed strengthens. You're bringing more of that into your world. You're strengthening it out in the world outside of you. So, not the fake positivity, because the universe is infinitely intelligent and it knows when we're faking. It's just true. And so, this is about us being authentic. So now when we experience things that really do create an emotional reaction, this is where the part of presence is going to play a big role, because a big part of our jobs is to begin to process our emotions, to not be afraid of our emotions or to, dislike them. And I don't want to feel this, my heart is hurting, or this person was an a-hole and they hurt me. And so then we try to, squish these feelings away, and what ends up happening is we're literally like compacting them into our energy. And as an intuitive, I can tell you that very often they are like literal blocks in people's energy. But what happens in that, like, if you want to say your light body, astral body, energetic body, with what happens when we are pushing away our emotions, they don't just go away. They get stored in there, but then it begins to have a physical effect. The energy like clumps into areas of our body, and depending on you and your system environment, how it's running, will depend on where you're going to be cramming this energy. And so, a part of our role as these amazing plant filters that are here to, filter this for the earth, we have to clean up our own inner filter first. And so this is tying in with this becoming present with what you're feeling when as soon as you catch yourself emotionally, mentally reacting to any of the things that are happening out here in the world. With that, it means when you feel something, instead of trying to divert your attention, watch the phone, go clean the house. My ex, he used to call me the white tornado, because when I get upset, I start cleaning. And I was like a machine cleaning the house, because I didn't want to deal with the emotions and the stuff going on. But I know better now, 20 years later, I know better. This is where when you start to feel feelings, that you take a space break, time out from whatever you're doing, and give yourself time to come into your body, like literally sit, close your eyes and feel your body. And this is where you have to come out of the thinking into the feeling, only the feeling. And how you process this emotion is by literally not allowing your mind to play out the story of whatever. So, whether your boss was a complete asshole to you at work today, or, you heard this news about what's happened out here in the world today. And, the mind likes to play things over and over, and, well, I should have said this, and I should have done that, and the mind. So when we go to sit quiet, what will happen is the mind will try to engage you. It's like casting out its line, trying to catch you with a fish hook and reel you back into this. And it's important to come back into your center and to just allow yourself to feel the energy of the emotions that you're feeling, and to be with them. Because what actually happens is you begin to cultivate this acceptance, and it's almost like an awareness that this emotion that you thought was insurmountable at the time, or so negative, was actually just energy. And we begin to through that acceptance, it's like a purification process. And this needs to happen in our own personal world, to begin to really clean house here, and with the things that we are experiencing about the world out here. The bottom line is that it's not about contributing more chaotic, negative energy into a global field that is already overwhelmed with it. And that in this sort of processing and disengaging from the media and disengaging that I hate this kind of energy, thought, thinking way of being towards what's happening, that when you're disengaging, you're now beginning to reharmonize your body. Your body is innately intelligent. Your light body, your soul, divine self, this ethereal field that is truly who you are, begins to rebalance itself when we give it the space and nurture it in the way that we need to. So we're just kind of facilitating that with these things. Another important thing, which will also greatly begin to help with the depression and the feeling hopeless and wanting to escape the planet. I had a living light experience, and this was well over 15 years ago. And, you know, at the time that that happened, the internet was like just a baby, and I never read anything. I didn't even know what it was. I called it a living light experience then. It was very profound. After that happened, that awakened my pituitary. What began to happen is I started meditating again. I had, really stepped away from my intuition and spirituality. I was angry at the universe and angry at God, and this experience brought me back into this awakened state. This world is made of a profound love. God, the universe, you are love. Under all the humanness, all the drama, everything that you are experiencing, the very core and true nature of you is love. And this love is infused in the very minute protons of everything within this entire world. And it's so easy, being encased in this human armor that we're so disconnected from it. But that experience literally changed my life. After I had that experience, when I began meditating again, I started to hear voices directly in the very center, which is where the pituitary is. My guides, I don't even know what to call them, whoever they were, these who were speaking to me, taught me that it's, restoring my intuition was not about my third eye. It wasn't about opening my third eye at all. That I needed to come down, down, down into here. And they instructed me, literally verbally telling me what to do, that I needed to, rest my awareness within my heart. And how they put it was, I called it heart breathing. I wrote about this way back in 2012. It's in my book, A Seed of Love. So this was long before heart coherence, or whatever they call it today, before all the science came out. They were telling me that I needed to rest my awareness within the heart. I needed to breathe as if when my eyes were closed, that my heart was my mouth and my heart was taking in the air, and that the air was coming into me and then back out of me, and it was feeding the torus field that each one of us creates. Imagine and feel the love, and there were some days where my heart was still hurting and I couldn't feel love, like no matter how hard I tried. And so I would just imagine it as this amazing, intensely beautiful, bright light, like the light that I had experienced in my living light experience. And I would just breathe it in and say the word love. And as I breathed it in, I felt like it was emanating out of me. And today there's actual science behind what they were teaching me. And it is called heart coherence. They have found that the heart actually has neurons. It has brain cells in the heart. It has a memory, it retains memory, and it thinks in a different way than the brain up here. What that heart breathing does is it begins to synchronize the waves of the mind with the heart mind. And it brings it into a coherent frequency. You think differently when you are in this kind of coherence. Your take on things that are happening in the world are different when you are like living in more of this state of heart coherence. And the things like compassion, understanding, forgiveness, love, all of these things that can be difficult to cultivate in the kind of global environment that we're experiencing today is a lot easier when we are back into our true alignment, because this heart coherent state really is true to the authentic self, to our soul self, to our energy body. And in this process, this heart coherence, like how they explained it to me was that the heart is like the motherboard of the computer. The pituitary or third eye, if you want to put it that way, is like the processor, right? It's doing all the work, but this is the motherboard and it's running the show. And so this is the area that we need to come back into and begin to heal. We need to start looking at our old wounds and what it is within us that hold us back, and why we don't want to engage the world, or, we fear being seen and sharing our light and really walking our purpose. What is it that are you holding back? Because those are little energy blockades in around the heart, and it will move you to tears. There was days I would do heart breathing, and especially in the last couple years, going through another round of healing, a huge just heart breathing and crying and letting it out. It's not bad, it's not good, it's not anything, not getting into any story, none of it, no story, breathing, feeling and breathing. And it will literally restore. It actually expands your energy field. I would do this in my intuition workshops. We would all do the breathing, and with dowsing rods, you can literally measure that where your aura or energy body is about an arm's length average out around you, that after really doing an effective session, it's 2 to 5 times greater, your energy field, just from heart breathing alone. Okay, so I really cannot stress that enough. It will make such a difference to your daily ability to just be in a place of acceptance of what's going on, and to return you back into a place of really being that being of love and light that you are. Maharishi, who developed the transcendental meditation technique of meditating, the Beatles followed him. He had this hypothesis that if 1% of the population within a given area were to do transcendental meditation, that it would have an effect on the consciousness of that area. And, that was way back when. But, today we're very aware of things like global meditations for peace, global meditations for love, loving the earth. And while that is very important, we need to look at this just in a even greater scale. When Maharishi did his meditations, and they did them in different states within the US, and they did some in India, there was actually an 11% drop in crime and other different effects that it had on that society within the area when they had about 1% or 7,000 people meditating together. But, what we're going through right now, we are literally moving into a new consciousness, a new state of awareness, an evolved human being that is vibrating more on this higher frequency, more within the light body, within the God mind of the true soul self versus the human self, right? And with all the changes that are happening here in the world, and I do want to call it global crisis because it is a crisis. What's more important than, just that doing that one meditation? This is where you come in. This is why you matter in all of this. Each and every one of us who says, okay, I see what's happening, but I am starting here and I am doing the work that I need to do. I'm taking, God is your employer. The universe employed you. They sent you down. You said, I volunteer for the change on the earth. And here you are. And the more of us who choose to remain present within our heart center, within our state of true self as much as we can, because we're human, we're always going to, falter through this. But the more that we approach our lives, ourselves, and this world from these principles, the more that we are then literally able to filter what the world is experiencing through our heart, regenerate it, reboot it into that frequency, vibration, its natural harmonics, which is love. That's why you are important in this. That's why we need you. We need each and every one of you, because, if Maharishi found that 7,000 people meditating in one day in one area had an 11% effect, what if each and every single one of us in every country where we are, every city, every town, stepped into our light and really did the work that we need to do to bring us into that state of conscious awareness of working our path to true enlightenment in processing this energy? Then you have thousands within each town making effect. Then you have hundreds of thousands within a state or province. And you even have millions within a country and hundreds of millions within the world. That kind of energy makes a massive difference. That is what is going to shift us or tip us, if you will. Okay? So the last piece that I want to leave you with is that the very first step, the very first part or piece of this is about coming to love yourself. It is so important that when you look in the mirror, that you love that person that you see. You need to know that it's okay for you to be self-focused now, to be self-centered in a very healthy and positive way, and that you begin to do things even though you don't want to. It's very amazing how strong the egoic, the false mind itself is. The false self just loves to be friggin' miserable. It really does. And it's so hard sometimes to motivate ourselves because the false self is pulling us down into this humanness. But you gotta come at it with a screw you kind of attitude, and I'm gonna do it no matter what. Even if I feel miserable, I am going to start taking these steps to loving myself, because it all starts here. It's impossible to love the entire world and to love it despite what's happening when you do not love yourself and do not love yourself and forgive yourself for what has happened in your life. So this is where it's going to be really important that you begin that very first step of your journey is in this act of loving yourself. And that heart coherence and that heart breathing is going to make a big difference. It really is. One of the biggest ways that you can make your contribution is by seeing how you can have a positive effect out here in the world. And I'm not talking about, doing something big and doing something great. I mean, if you want to do that and you feel drawn to do that, please do that. We need you. But I mean, in the small ways, in your everyday life, I know for me, one of the things that I've been very conscious of for quite some time now is when I'm on social media, I no longer will hit thumbs down, never left negative comments on anything ever. And if I find something very offensive or, really out of alignment, that this person is a very unconscious person, I will just say like not interested. You can do things to get it out of your feed, no matter which feed we're talking about. And then I won't give it any more energy or any more attention. I won't give it the energy of giving it a thumbs down, because that is literally feeding that whole negativity in the first place. I mean, I'm not on IG or FB anymore at all. I'm off, gone. And that's another whole video, like I said. But even here, I do watch YouTube. But even then, with those other platforms, if I stop to read somebody's post, if it catches me, if their photo catches me, if I watch a video, whether I thought it was fantastic or not is a different story, I'll always hit the love to it. Being in this position that I am, where I'm doing the same thing, doing the work that I feel called to do here, I know that it takes a lot for each person to, the journey that they have been through to overcome themselves, to, put themselves out there in the world. And whether it's fantastic, best job ever, or just kind of mediocre, but hey man, you're friggin' doing it. That's awesome. So I always hit the love to things. The other thing, I started this practice about 10 years ago. They said you need to start sharing. I have this big smile. I do. I have a big smile, and they're like, you're supposed to be using it. My homework for them was to start smiling at people when I see them. Yes, even through a mask, you can smile. Sometimes we underestimate just how much of an impact or an effect simply smiling at another human being can do, or treating the person who serves us with, respect, because geez, it could be me there at the till bringing through groceries or making coffee for people. We're all equal. Every single human being is equal. And by smiling at people, it becomes very much a process of growth, because you'll see your inner reactions of not wanting to, or, maybe wanting to hide away or look away. And so there's lots of little things that you can do throughout the day to have put out your positivity and your vibes. And I know that you guys are the most amazing group of people. I feel so honored to have you guys following my work. I really do. And what I would love to see in the comments below is suggestions of things that you can think of that we can do to, spread some sunshine, love, positivity in these really simple, everyday sort of situations. One of the other things, I do need to say this, one of the other things that I always do is when I see babies in strollers, they're kicking their leg, they're like, and mom is getting something off the shelves at the grocery store, I stop and I breathe, and I flux out my aura at them, and you try it, you do it, little babies, and their eyes will do this at you, or they'll smile, like they see it. It's very amazing. Anyway, there are hundreds of like acts of kindness, if you want to put it that way, but just simple things that you can do to start, spreading some love to each other, to start to bring us back to this feeling that we are all connected. We are all one. We are one consciousness. We are one being that is experiencing itself as individuals. So anything that you can do to share and spread, like, I want to hear your ideas, because I know there are many, many things we can do. Anyhow, I know that we've run quite long with this video, longer than I intended, but that always happens when I get gabbing. So what I want to say is thank you. And if you would like to see more videos where we go more in detail about any of these subjects, so that we can start some sort of series that can like feed you, we'll call it like soul food kind of thing. If you guys are interested in that, please do let me know down in the comments below. I am sending you my love, my gratitude. Thank you. Thank you.